So, using John's staged model of reflection requires inward looking and outward looking, looking in, looking out. And what we need to do is consider what internal factors are influencing us as reflective practitioners. And we can consider a simple framework for this. Here we can see the framework for inward reflection. In terms of inward reflection, we're looking at expectations that we have about ourselves, from ourselves. They could be expectations around duty or obligation to particular people in the school environment or to the school itself. There could be expectations that we have around our professionality, the conscience that we have in terms of trying to do the best for the people that we're working with. And there could also be expectations around the beliefs and the values that we have and how we're realizing these and operationalizing these in the classroom. And there can be expectations around what is good practice, indeed what is normal practice, and whether we're conforming to that idea. And there can, of course, also therefore, in relation to normal practice, be expectations around what happens to us if we fall below that norm, or in other words, any sort of fear of reprisal or sanction if we're underperforming. At the other end of this framework, there can be expectations from others that are part of inward reflection. And what we have to consider here is in what way expectations from others can impact on us. There could be expectations from others about our loyalty to individuals in the school or to the school itself. Or, of course, the loyalty that we have for the professional role that we take on. And, of course, consequently, that can create anxiety around any sort of situations that might occur. And so there can be expectations that we build up over time, others build up over time, about situations and how they're dealing with it, and how we are all part of that. In relation to this inward-looking process, we can also consider attitudes that we have as practitioners. And the most influential attitudes are the negative attitudes that we have towards others. It could be towards colleagues, it could even be towards students or to families. And what we need to consider is what are the factors, therefore, that influence our actions in relation to these expectations and attitudes? And what are the priorities around all of these which influence and guide our actions? So we can see that using John's model means that we need to consider these particular cues as reflective practitioner. And they're useful because they help us give equal weight to the things we're considering from this internal perspective. And it's this equal weight which helps us balance the internal perspective with the external focus. Now, what we can do here is also add in the idea of reflexivity. And reflexivity means that the internal looking aspect of the staged model moves away from just thinking and not doing anything else. It actually is a way of avoiding what is in the literature called navel gazing and taking a much more profound and pragmatic perspective. And in this way, the reflective practitioner moves from a point of just thinking to a point where learning becomes profound and deep. So the inward aspect, as long as we're using a meaningful framework, is a way to balance the process of reflection, both internal and external, and thereby, through that balance, creating a process of reflexivity which adds to our practice and helps us learn.